Do you think we tried this democracy thing too quickly?
That's a great question. Winston Churchill said the best argument against democracy was a 5 minute conversation with the average voter. And that was back in 1945. I think it's kind of a tongue in cheek question, but it is interesting that a lot of the times politicians will say that Americans aren't getting the leaders they deserve. Well, in a democracy, especially in one where you elect your leaders, the voters are the ones that determine who represents them. So a lot of the times we can say, well, it's this person, or we don't deserve this person. But ultimately, the voters are the ones that determine, both in the primary process and in the general election, who's going to represent them. So I think you have to say honestly, what is it in our society that is pushing us to elect people that don't seem to have much ability to lead? And I think that's a question we need to ask honestly, and not pretend that it's just this leader or that leader or this party or that party that's causing all the problems, because that's just not true.
Right. I think that there's a significant argument to be made that the rights of the individual person and the rights of the sovereign citizen shouldn't be put up to the vote by other citizens. Now, that said, there have been monarchies attempted that have devolved into tyrannies, and there have been monarchies that have been benevolent. There have been, Cincinnatus in Rome is a famous example of a monarch who came in to fix the system and was benevolent and then left. Now, that's an extremely rare case throughout history, of course, but the idea that democracy is the only way, I think, is worth debating. And I think that the question about people's rights and how far the citizenry is allowed to go in restricting those rights, I think that's a conversation that isn't had enough in our republic.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of that, Tocqueville made the big argument with his entire political theory that democracy was the worst form of government, so he would argue for monarchy. So what he argued was that when you have equality, you kind of start reaching this point where you constantly reach to strive for equality. You can never make things truly equal. So he had made the argument for the monarchy, and so this was also years ago, and so I don't know that it would hold today, but it's an interesting thing to look at and understand. So
all I know is there's monarchy, I want to be the king, and then it'll be perfect.